All right. Cool. So everyone, welcome. If you're here, give yourself a pat on the back. I like to always remind you, this is one of those things that if you do have an understanding of how important marketing and your messaging is, coming to these things, it's kind of like a workout. It is like building the mental and emotional muscle of your messaging and marketing is going to really, really help your business. And show of hands, who here has ever had to explain their business to someone else? Show of hands. Anyone had to explain what you do, how you do it? Cool. You recognize how important that process is. Yes. Anyone who's ever done business with you has done so because you've communicated something about your business that got them interested. Yes. So it's a key part of the process, of course. However, what Ken is about to run us through is the main challenge is that when you're the expert in what you do, how you explain something can be very challenging because you're the expert. You understand how you communicate, what you communicate with depth. However, that's often not what leads people to work with you, correct? What leads people to work with you is often something that resonates with them, that's simple enough for them to digest, but also compelling enough that they say, hey, I'm interested in that thing and I want to make sure I can benefit from it. So that's why Ken's here. Ken's going to share his expertise, his skills, his wisdom, and passing on to you some nuggets of how to communicate your business in ways that are actually effective and efficient without overwhelming people and without giving them so much depth that it sounds nice, but actually leaves them confused. So that's why we have Ken here. And in future things, in future calls, I'm going to be inviting more and more experts for their own expertise, skills, and wisdom. But Ken is the first here. So everyone, first of all, round of applause for Ken. Go for it, my friend.
All right. Okay, definitely seeing some lovely familiar faces out there. So good to see everybody. So I wanted to start with just a quick little visualization and breath practice, just to get you a little bit connected. So just while you're sitting, you can do this eyes open or closed, doesn't really matter. But just relax into your chair, press your feet into the ground, and just take a few breaths in through the nose, out to the mouth. And just as you inhale, just a diaphragmatic breath is really helpful. So just feeling the belly expand a little bit and then just relaxing into the chair. And as you're doing this, I want you to think in terms of like, imagine a ball of light right around your heart, right? And that ball of light represents, we're thinking in terms of our work, our business right now. So that's like your passion for what it is you do, and just kind of feed that light a little bit. And then imagine a second ball of light, like in the center of your forehead. And that would be your clarity, your understanding, your insight into how the work that you do can benefit the world around you. And then you have a third ball of light down what we call the lower dantian. So this would be a little below your belly button. And this is your ability to bring that out into the world to manifest. So it's like you have the head, you have the heart, you have your ability to bring these things, you have the skill to bring all these things into the world. And what I want you to do is imagine those lights brightening and expanding until they overlap each other. Because really, integration, our ability to really bring our value to the world, is when our head and our heart are singing the same song, and we've cultivated the skills and capacities to actually bring that out into the world around us in a tangible way. So, and as you're connecting to that, think about that light expanding until it touches others. Who are the people that you're looking to connect to? And think about their light for a minute, because the interesting thing is, and this is very much, it's a soft practice, but also a practical practice. Some people are thinking their way forwards to where they want to be. That light in their head is very bright. Others are in a place of heightened emotion or feeling. Their heart light is the one that's active. And some just want to do something. They want to take action. They want to move themselves somehow. So you can't know. You don't know right now which light it is that your light is initially going to react to. All you can do is move from a place of integration and alignment for yourself. And what's going to happen is they will respond to that sense of certainty and value and skill that you're pushing out into the world. And the way my mentor always spoke of it is we can be like candles lighting candles. When your candle lights someone else, nothing is lost. It's all gain. There's just more light. And just try to hold this movement, this image as we move forwards through the practice. Just reminding yourself, you can be sort of part of this interconnecting, expanding web of light that's energizing in multiple directions. Your people are receiving light through your work, right? They're sharing that light with others within their network. And as we close this practice, just reflect on one question. As you're thinking about this, you're thinking about your work, that interconnection between your mind, your body, your emotions, your ability to manifest. Just reflect on this question for a second. When you think about the people you feel called to serve, what is your dream for them? If you were able to solve all of your problems to the benefit of others, what would be denied you in this lifetime? Just imagine that. And don't limit yourself. Just think about the possibility of the impact of your work on those that are attracted to you and that you are fortunate enough to interact with and work with. And then you can just kind of put that in the back of your mind. You can come back to present. If there's something in particular that came to mind from that for you, you're always welcome to share it with the rest of us in the chat. You can put it in there. But it can be a very powerful thing to just think about that. When you use the word dream, it frees you from, the boundaries that sometimes those self-imposed limitations Tyson talks about a lot that we put on ourselves. It's just a dream. It's okay if it doesn't match reality exactly, but a lot of times it'll allow you to expand your awareness and that practice a little bit more. Okay. So next up. So first, I just want to give you guys a couple of quick guidelines. If you have any questions as I start going through this process, just raise your virtual hand, and that way I can kind of call on you at a good stopping point. If you have an insight to share or a thought, go ahead and just put it right into the chat. And Tyson's agreed to kind of keep an eye on that as I'm going through this process with you. If he sees something that he feels it would be good to pause for or elaborate on, he'll interrupt me and interject and chime in so that we can explore it. But feel free, as you're having insights, go ahead and lay them out in the chat, because the rest of us always derive value from the way that you're taking in this information and seeing it and contributing with it. So for just for a little bit of background, so my contribution is one of the reasons I love working with Tyson is I'm really big on business design, organizing content, especially with service-based and member-based businesses. So marketing is something that I get good enough at, but it's not my expertise. So a lot of times I'm focused on the work and creating these self-sustaining, momentum-gaining businesses, but then Tyson's got this really cool skill set for connecting you into a story that's compelling and will attract the right people to you over time. So I'm focused today on thinking about what it is that you deliver, the service you deliver, and how we can pare that down to as condensed and concise in essence as we can, so that Tyson can then take it and help us leverage that into more effective marketing and messaging. Does that sound good to everybody? Good? Thumbs up? Excellent. All right. So first thing, I have a question. What is the purpose of a first meeting? Anyone that's worked with me probably knows the answer to this, but why do you have a first meeting? What are you trying to do? You can chime in or put it in the chat, whatever you think. I see to get to know someone, connection. Good, good. What else? Tyson hit it. Introduce yourself. Yep. Yep. Hans got it too. Offer value. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, so Tyson and Hans hit like the kind of the way to think about it for our purposes. The purpose of the first meeting is to get a second meeting, right? So it's not to get all the things answered and all the boxes checked. And I'd like to add another part to that. It's to decide whether a second meeting is even a good idea, right? So you always want to reserve the right to have that first meeting and say, nope, this isn't going to be the right fit. So, so when you're in that first meeting, you have to think sort of like a sculptor. You've got this block of all that you do and what you're doing. Yeah, similar to dating. I like it, Tyson. You've got this block of all that you do, and what you're trying to do is carve away the excess, right? You want to give them just enough to help them move forwards, right? And when you do that, you'll get the opportunity in future contacts to deepen the connection, to add more value. But we're doing it one step at a time, right? And if we give them too much too quickly, if we try to tell them everything and share everything, and we give them dense text or intense videos with lots of information, you're going to overwhelm them, right? So the expression I like to use a lot, I use this with educators too: chunks so they don't choke, right? Give them bites that they can actually chew and swallow instead of trying to shove the whole meal down their throat, because it's all important. We love what we do. We get very passionate. So it's really easy for us to overshare. So our goal through this little process that we're going to do, and I have an actual exercise for you, is to create what I call a curiosity connection. So, and we want to think about it this way. We want to share enough that they start asking questions that are relevant to them and inspire them to learn more about you and what it is you do. Does that make sense? Like saying it that way? So, and a good way to think of it, and I'm going to put this in the chat. Questions open the mind, statements focus it. Questions open the mind, statements focus it. And they both have value. They both have relevance, but the timing of it matters. So I'm going to give you an example. So in my work, right? So just to kind of set this up. So if the question is, do you want to create a truly self-sustaining and momentum-gaining business by doing what you love to do? That's going to leave people that have a business and they don't want to be stuck constantly trying to push the same rock up the hill. They're going to get curious about that. So now I can follow it up with a statement. You'll need to focus as intensely on the design of your business as you do on the work yourself.
So Ken, Tracy said, can you
Oops.
repeat the statement? So we want to share enough to...
Let's see, where was I? We want to share enough that they start asking relevant questions that inspire them to learn more, right? So one of the ways I was trained was, the bigger and better questions model. Keep asking bigger and better questions until the questions disappear and the answer reveals itself, right? So in the minds of the people we work with, questions are going to open them up, right? It's going to make them receptive to hearing what you have to say. But then the trick is we can't overwhelm them with statements, right? So if I took those two, the question statement I made, and I reversed it, think about how this would be received. So if I said to you, you need to focus as intensely on the design of your business as you do on the work itself. That's like an attack almost. That's like telling you, I know things that you don't, and you need to do what I say. And if you're more like me, you'll be okay, right? Even if that wasn't my intention, because I'm making a statement, I focused your mind before I opened it, to the possibilities. But when I ask you the question, does this matter to you? right? Do you want to create a truly self-sustaining and momentum gaining business doing what you love to do? A lot of people would say no. They're not in business, or they don't care about that, or they love doing the work. It's not their interest. But for the people who are interested in that, I've engaged them in a process of getting curious about what comes next, right? So, and I'm not giving them the answer, I'm giving them a statement that aligns with the work that I do to serve them. So, so that's sort of the first thing is if you were to look right now at your marketing messaging, how many of those things are statements? And can you take that statement and frame a question that opens up the people to better receive the statement that you make? Questions open the mind, statements focus it. And a lot of times, just doing that can make a huge difference. And with all of this stuff, test it. You got to run experiments. I mean, in the marketing world, there's things like A/B testing. I think the best thing to do is find someone who's willing to be a little mean and brutally honest, and say to you, that knows you well enough that they understand you and your work, and they can say to you, yeah, that doesn't land. No, that doesn't make sense. Nope. If I was hearing that for the first time, I wouldn't get it. Right. Find that person that you can have those conversations with that can serve as your like sounding board. And I'm sure this be a good thing, Tyson. I know you do a lot of like accountability partners. Setting something like that up could be helpful because you're all coming from the same place. So that could add some benefit too. But, the idea is just, you want to be thinking in terms of how do I create an open mind in the people who could potentially benefit from our work, and then give them an opportunity to decide based on the follow up. Right? How are we doing with that? Any questions on that? Does that make sense?
That actually makes a lot of sense because I feel like even me as well, I can get into a lot of statements um, when I want my message to come across. But what you're saying here as well is that when you have relevant questions and curiosity seeking questions, their mind opens up for the statement that you want to present. But when you ask questions, they reflect in ways that are meaningful for them.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what we
And
want to do.
and just think, that beginning exercise, right? You're shining your light, but you don't know where they're at. You don't know how they're activated, right? So if you're trying to be passionate and they're in a cognitive place where they're thinking, or they're shut down and they just need to do something, you don't know that about them. So your messaging has to reach them where they already are. It's one of the terms we use a lot in communication: pace, lead. Don't start with where you think people should be. Meet them where they are, and then slowly work your way into where you can get out in front of them. It's like if someone's wandering on a path and they don't know the path, and you just go running down it saying, "Follow me." It's not going to work out very well, right? You got to join them. You got to get on the path with them. You got to walk alongside of them. Then you can pick up the speed a little bit, and eventually you can get out in front, right? But there's a rhythm, and I think with our marketing, sometimes we forget that, and we're so familiar that we just sort of shout at them. I know I used to do that a lot, and I'm like, "You need this. This will be good for you. Listen to me." And they're like, whoa, who the heck are you? Right. So, so you've got to kind of create that sort of perception. Hans, what you got?
There's a question. So when you're talking about marketing, of course, it sort of encompasses every aspect of the conversation that we have. But are you thinking specifically about outreach and referral marketing, or are you thinking about making the post that gets the biggest likes on social media because it gives you a warm endorphin kind of rush? Where, what sort of fora are you looking at?
So I think that will, there'll be some context that'll be based on the individual circumstances. And, for some people, reach is really important. They need a really, really big funnel, right? They need a high level of engagement so they can filter that down. Um, Personally, I do outreach and referral because I don't want to flood in any of my businesses. I want to trickle. I want to, maintain quality and then maintain a valuable relationship over a long period of time. So I don't need a lot of that at the beginning because it's not there. I'm not looking for, my business model doesn't involve people that come and go and need to be replaced. There's not a lot of churn, but some business models do. You're selling a course, and once the course is sold, you need to find someone else to buy the course. So in that case, you're probably going to need to focus more on that broader reach and that level of engagement. So there's no right or wrong. There's just understanding what your model requires for your business to operate successfully. Does that help? Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. So, okay. Anything else before I jump on? And this will kind of expand on what Hans was just saying too.
Well, Joelle
any
has
other
typed in the
questions?
chat here. She said, "What are some good questions for a first meeting, or is there a formula?" She said, "I'm guessing it might be a bit more intuitive. So, what are some good questions for a first meeting?"
So it's a good question is one that positions their mind for the statement. So, and questions are very powerful. So I'll give you a quick story that will kind of help, understand this. So my first business 37 years ago was running a martial arts school. I still run martial arts schools, but I do a lot of other stuff too now. So I work with a lot of teenagers, and we had designed this leadership program. And I was working with these teenagers, and I told them, I'm going to take control of your minds right now. And they're all laughing at me. And I said, all right, ready? I'm going to make you think exactly what I want you to think. And I said, when's the last time you clipped your toenails? And I said, now tell me you're not thinking about when the last time you clipped your toenails was. And we joked about it. We laughed about it. But the interesting thing is the next day I had this mom of this boy, his name was Nick, come up to me and she's like, what did you say to my son yesterday? And I'm like, oh God, I don't know. I was ready to apologize. And she says, no. He came home from his leadership class last night and he went in his bedroom and he clipped his toenails. I have been screaming at him to do that for 3 months. They were disgusting. How did you get him to do that? And it was just such a silly thing. But, it was in a humorous way. And I was thinking to myself, I wasn't yelling at him to do it. I wasn't telling him why he should do it. I wasn't trying to convince him. I just brought attention to something. So good questions are ones that draw their attention to something that has meaning to them, that matters to them. So, and I know that's a little bit vague, but I'll try to think of a specific example. So, go ahead, Hans.
So since the first meeting is to find out about the people, FORM is a good acronym to remember, and you can pick and choose from what that is. It's family, occupation, recreation, motivation. So any questions around their family, their occupation, recreation, motivation, not necessarily in that order, but it's something to pick and choose from.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way, anything that, because remember, it's not about you. It's never about you. It's about them. So we have to connect them to what matters to them, right? And then we are the guide that can help them get to where they've already decided they want to go, right? That's our role. So, and I think one of the hardest things is the question not being like leading or feeling confrontational. So it's like, if you really cared about your life, wouldn't you exercise more? That's not going to hit very well, So, but you have to, but if you're thinking, how would you feel if you could, without any changes in your life, add 30 minutes of movement per day? And now they're just thinking, how would I feel if I did that? Maybe it wouldn't matter to them. Maybe it's like, oh God, I wish I had time to do that. Right. So you opened it up and then now you're going to make a statement. I can teach you how to do 5-minute chunks of exercise. So you won't need a 30-minute block, but by the end of the day, you'll have accumulated 30 minutes of movement that will help you sleep better and have more energy during the day. Right. So that kind of thing. So, but the question was one that was just, I'm curious about if this would have value to you. Right. So, as we go through the exercise, you're refining down what it is you really do. Right. And that will help you determine questions like that. And obviously, this is also something, I mean, maybe Tyson, it could even be like a serving circle post where people say, I need a question around this. And then we all crowdsource it and, comment underneath it and give each other ideas for questions till you find the thing that resonates for you. But that's one way that we could do it too. So any other thoughts on this? This is really good. I like the dialogue. It's helpful. I don't like being one directional and speaking.
Really cool. It's really cool to have the focus of just whenever you're going into a meeting or you're about to meet with a prospect or whatever, to just say instead of what do I want to share, it's what do I need to ask. Just having that shift of focus, because it is true when you create statements, it's easier to build resistance in the other person. Whenever you have too many statements, they're going to be like, what are you telling me what to do? Compared to opening them up with skillful questions. So if you go into a meeting and before the meeting, you're prepping and saying, what questions do I need to ask? It's just a completely different channel of focus, especially if it opens up their curiosity and creates more receptivity for whatever statements you do want to share.
Yep, exactly.
Hans, go for it.
So, have you ever been on a long airplane journey, sitting beside someone who you asked and asked and asked questions, and all he did was talk, and you let him talk the whole time, or her talk? At the end of the journey, he says, "What a great conversation we had! I really enjoyed everything." So it's a. But the thing you'll also find, and this is what Tom Schreiter would say, if you're curious enough about what people do, eventually it's a biological mechanism that is built into our biology. They will say, well, shit, I've been talking all the time. What about you? What is it that you do? And how can I help you in your business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They have to eventually turn the conversation and ask you the question.
Yeah,
and I would say to just exercise lots of patience.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to be seen and heard. Every single one of us. And you're right, Hans. If we're the service provider, we really go second. I mean, as badly as we need to be seen and heard, they really do need to feel seen and heard first. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. The wait, why am I talking? That's beautiful. Okay. So how do we get here? I'm going to move on because I want to make sure we get to the exercise because you guys will get me going and I'll get distracted. Tyson and I were talking about that earlier. So first of all, with this whole process, one of the things that we developed, it's a process called the fitting room. And I'm not sure if the same terminology is in every country, but in the US, if you see clothes and you want to try them on, you go into a fitting room, you try the clothes on, you see if they work for you, right? And then either you buy them or you put them back on the rack. So I've done a lot of brick and mortar. So at one point, I started a business and ended up having to hire over 50 people at the beginning of the business. I had about 100 total employees between 4 businesses going together. And I completely screwed it up. And more than half of them quit within a year. And it was my fault. I didn't have a good way to make sure that they were the right people to flourish and succeed in the business that I had built. I believed in them. They believed in me. We were all excited. But it literally was like seeing a shirt on the rack and buying it without trying it on. And then you get home and you're like, oh no. Right. So I learned to design a process where really what we needed is what we need in all of our businesses with our client. We need a partnership that works for everyone involved. And we don't know what that looks like if we don't figure out how to try it on first, right? So the point being that as you're going through this process, it's okay to collect no's before you agree to yeses, right? And if you set it up right, let other people say no. You configure it so that you make it easy for them to say no. And from the ones that don't say no, you get to decide who you're going to say yes to. Okay. And, to continue the fitting room thing, imagine if you walked into the clothing store knowing you wanted a shirt and you had to try on every single shirt in the store to find the right one. It would be exhausting. It would be frustrating. So, you don't want to try on everybody that's out there, right? You have criteria, you have things that narrow it down. There's a certain size, maybe a certain style, maybe it's for a certain purpose. So the ones you try on are going to be a handful. And from that handful, you get to say yes to the right ones. So, so as we're thinking about this process, you want to configure your initial messaging so that, like my statement, about do you want a self-sustaining and momentum gaining business? If you don't want a business, you're saying no. I'm filtering out all the people that aren't business oriented right away. They're not ever going to contact me because what I have isn't helpful to them. I'm not wasting their time. They're not wasting mine. So part of your question, part of your messaging is to narrow the focus so that you can get to the people who genuinely have a chance of partnering with you successfully, right? So, so think of it as, this process is make it easier for them to say no for the right reasons so that you can say yes for the right reasons to the ones that don't say no. It's a little bit of a complex sentence, but I think you get the point. Yes. So, all right. So how do we get there? Right. We have to build this framework, and it leads to what I call the curiosity connection. Right. And when I'm working with people who do content like courses and stuff like that, a lot of times a lot of times I'll go through an audit of their material and everything first to kind of get a sense of where they are. And they have this huge, expansive process that's very detailed, very intense, just really cool, elegant, beautiful stuff, right? Also extremely overwhelming. So what we do is we go backwards, we reverse engineer it. And the first thing we do is we talk about what is your foundational work, right? And this is often a good place to start because it'll lead us to this idea of the curiosity connection. Your foundational work is like the doorway into your expanded work. It's like the entranceway to your home, right? There's all of these rooms. When they first walk in, you don't start running them around to all the rooms, right? Usually you tell them where the bathroom is because that might be important for them to know. Some rooms they're never even going to see, right? Because they're just not relevant to them visiting you, right? So, and it's not that the rooms aren't there. We're just being discerning about the design of how we introduce them to them, right? So, when we're thinking in terms of your foundational work, right? Think in terms of this. Most entrepreneurially minded people, they see a problem we're solving to the greater good, and they're dissatisfied with the solutions currently being offered. So think about how that fits you right now, right? Probably whatever you're doing, it's solving a problem that you feel has value, right? You're offering a solution. And that solution is probably a little different from other solutions that other people are trying to leverage into solving that same problem, right? And that's what makes us entrepreneurs. We're creative thinkers, we're innovative, we're willing to take the road, less traveled to get to where we want to go, right? So, so the question is this: thinking in terms of that, you have a problem you're looking to solve, you have a unique solution to it, right? And I'll put this question in the chat too. Hang on. So the question is, and I'll copy and paste it in right after I ask it. If you had limited time to share the most important elements of work with someone, what would that look like for you? Now, what limited time is, that's something that you can decide for this thought experiment. I like to think about it as in, maybe, hey, I have one, 3-part workshop and I'm never going to see this person again. What what do I want them to know so that they're better for having experienced their time with me? Like in our martial arts school, we have a 30-day promise. It's just we don't want to do a long-term relationship until someone goes through their first 30 days to make sure that it fits right. And there are certain things that we make sure they've learned in that 30 days so that if they never have another lesson with us, it's going to help them. It's going to help them moving forwards. So just take a moment and just kind of reflect on that, right? Because and obviously this is like, I do intensives on this whole idea because it can get a little complicated as you're starting to carve away the excess. You have to sort of think like an editor, not the author. You're the editor is the one that hacks apart the work, and in writing they call it killing your darlings. It's like, oh, but I love what I wrote. Too bad it's getting hacked. It distracts. It's hard to do, so there's like a process. Sometimes I found with my stuff, sometimes there's even a little bit of a grieving process. I've had to have a funeral for a paragraph that I loved because it just didn't fit. So, but that's the idea, right? So, and if you can get clear on that, that's going to allow you to distill that down even further, because the curiosity connection, think of it like an introductory program that gets them curious about what they would learn in that foundational work, right? So if I were to put this in a sequence, someone finds out about you and you say, go here, right? And they have an initial experience that makes them go, huh, I think I want to understand that more. Oh, I never thought about that before. That's an interesting question. I love when people ask that. That was an interesting question, right? That kind of thing. So now from that group, some of them are going to go to your foundational work, right? They're going to sign up for whatever it is, the core of what you do. And you're intensely focused on giving them that core as if the time you have with them is short and finite, which it is, right, for all of us, but we tend to forget that, right? But like really short and finite, so that you're being very, very clear, concise, and specific about the value you're delivering, right? Now, from that group, there's going to be another group that are going to say, actually, Denise and I talk about this a lot. They're going to say, hit me with it. And you're going to be like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, give it to me. Give it all to me. And it's like, all right, you asked for it. I didn't hit you with it. You asked for it. Now you have permission to go deep and wide and do all the crazy things that you love to do with people who chose to be there and understand what that commitment meant, right? Because they went through a progression. So you've got your introductory process, right? That's really just creating questions. Then you've got your foundational work, right? Which is like the most important things that you would want to deliver as if, even if you have lots of time, as if you didn't. And then from there, you've got what you probably, most of us are already really good at, which is the full scope of what we can do to help people. All right. Thoughts on that? Questions, comments, concerns, confusion?
Makes a lot of sense. And I love the analogy of walking into the house, having a guest into your house. Having a guest into your business can be very similar. It doesn't make sense to show them every single room right away. And I mean, for those of you who are getting results with running a quick win, this is essentially what you're doing. You're helping deliver something. You're helping deliver on a quick win, which, what Ken's describing here is, hey, you're solving problems for people and you're offering a unique solution they haven't tried yet. Like, what is that nugget? What is that one micro experience that they can be like, I've got a result here. I've got a micro win. Oh, that is actually curious. Oh, I've never heard that before. Oh, I haven't felt this progress before. Opens them up to more, right? Opens them up to something that is deeper. But they don't want to go deeper unless they have that first experience. Is that what you're explaining here, Ken?
Yeah, and often what's interesting is no's aren't actually no's, they're not yets. It's timing. So if you've introduced them, it makes it easier for them to choose to come back to it when the timing is better for them, because they understand. They understand what it is you do in a way that's memorable, right? But if you blast them with too much, they can't remember anything, right? So we have to design this in a way where they just, they say no temporarily and they're moving about their life, and then they get a flashback to like, oh, if I had done that course, I think it would have helped here. Or if I had, I got to reach out to Jan. I just, she's talking about a tight back and blah, 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 that kind of thing. So the idea is to just trust the fact that shine your light, and just let it be bright and let it land where it lands, right? And then give them space and understanding as to how they take the next step. Don't forget to do that part. Like, it's got to direct them. If they say yes and you say yes, you need to make sure they know what to do next. Like, there has to be a clear actionable step, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? Um, but for this part, I'm going to put this in the chat, is just to kind of help you connect to it. So the idea is there's like sort of four ways. There's a lot of ways it helps you, but here's the main four, right? You're laying the groundwork for flourishing partnership. Let me hit send. There we go. You're cultivating curiosity, right? Think of gifting them with an impactful experience that they can take with them. And for you, this is a duplicatable process that introduces new clients to what you do. Too often, we end up reinventing it over and over again from scratch, rather than have something that's kind of structured and scaffolded in a way where it's sort of plug and play. At this early stage, you can still have flexibility and personalization in it. But if you lay out some kind of introduction to your work, whether it's a course or an email campaign, it doesn't matter, right? Like what the medium methodology is for this. If you think in terms of how it's going to help you, right, that's going to help get the ball rolling. Go ahead, Tyson.
Yeah, so Beatrice has typed in the chat here. She's giving a bit of a go of explaining what she's doing. She says, the core of what I do is helping entrepreneurs more of everything: money, time, joy, whilst taking more breaks, enjoying life and bringing their talents into the world, because they're fed up working hard and they know they deserve so much more. So she's asking, what could I ask them? Could you give an example? I'm guessing, of something that is a curiosity question.
So I think actually your statement leads to it pretty simply. So like an example might be, what would your life look like right now if you had more time to do the things you love to do and more money to do it? So now they're just thinking about that. If I wasn't limited, if I had more of those resources available, what would that look like for me? And now the natural, thought process for them is, how can I get that? I like the way that feels. I like the way that sounds. How do I get it? Now you're making a statement as to how you're doing it, right? So does that help?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times it's, I always think in terms of, like, when I teach teachers a lot, and I think in terms of three gateways. You've got, some people are cognitive, they're thinkers, right? First, we all have all three. Some are emotional; they're feelers first. They got to connect to the emotional part of it, and some are embodied. They need to interact with it somehow. So so your questions are touching on each of those three things. What would it feel like? How could I do it? And how do I understand it? So, and if you can tap into one of those, what happens is over time, as they go deeper, all three of those gateways light up. And when they overlap and integrate, that's when the magic happens. And I'm sure you can think of it. Your best clients, the people that you have had the most success with, they understood it. They were connected to it on an emotional level, and they were capable. They had skills that allowed them to practice and implement. Right? If any of those are missing, it it creates disconnect, imbalances that lead to struggle.
And I love the process you're saying of really peeling back, stripping away what's not necessary. Because I feel like me and many of you, when we're bringing people into our business, into our experience, getting them some kind of results, whether that's free or paid, it can often be tempting to flood them with a lot, so that we think we're adding value. We think we're adding value by giving them more. But really what matters most is what they implement. And so what you're explaining here,
Yeah.
Ken, is when you peel back, when you strip down the fat and you just ask yourself, what is that one thing, what that one experience, that one question, that one statement, that one understanding that's going to help them digest it and then be able to do something with it. That's a really big, gives you a really big leg up with creating impact, right?
Yeah. And so often the impact will come from a fraction of what you think it will come from. So like a fraction. Like, for example, when I'm working with kids and I'm teaching them to do a push-up, all I do at first is teach them to hold a high plank position. For most of them, having the core and back strength to hold their body straight, that's a win. Just that. Then the next thing I teach them is how to lower themselves down to the ground slowly. I don't even get them to push up. That's a win, because a lot of times they don't have the muscular strength to control the eccentric movement. And then we get to pushing up. So one push up is a 3-part process that leads to success. And then after that, it's just doing reps. Now it's fun for them to see how many correct push-ups they can do. But earlier in my career, when I was a young 20-year-old something, I'm like, rah, 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 push up, you make it hurt, no pain, no gain. But I wasn't actually teaching them. I was just telling them, I can do it, you should be able to do it. That's not helping them. It was me enthusiastically trying to help them, but just not in as strategic a way. So a lot of times that's part of this. They don't need anywhere near as much as you think they do to connect to the value you have to deliver, right?
So Amy's typing in the chat. She says, the 3 questions, I got 2 of them. What would it feel like? How could I do it? And the other one was understanding, right? The mental, cognitive.
Yep. Understand. Yeah. How can I understand this? So, because for some people, they need to understand it before they'll have the excitement and the interest to do it. Others, if they're not excited about it, they can't understand it. They need to feel engaged in it. Others need to just start doing it. They'll figure it out and get excited later. They just want to move. So, and you don't know which one they are. So you're trying to layer all 3, but you've got to touch on all 3 because you don't know which is the thing that they're going to enter from. Right. If that makes sense. So, and that can be a big, key to marketing as well. So
if you're in a conversation with them, couldn't you also figure it out by the kinds of questions they're asking?
Yep. Absolutely.
If they're asking conversations like, how do I do this? Or if they're asking conversations around like, what is this, how do I understand this better? Or what does this actually mean? They're trying to, comprehend it, this sort of thing.
Yep.
That's kind of.
Sometimes they will literally just tell you, they'll just say, I'm not feeling this. Or they'll say, I don't get it. Or, can we just do it, please? They're like, there's no reason not to. So, they're just, and they may not understand why they're asking it, but yeah, the clues are definitely there. And you may find that the people you most need to attract are more active by nature. Like you're going to attract more cognitive people, so your message can be a little bit more biased towards that, or whatever it may be. That's fine too. But yeah, absolutely, Tyson. They'll tell you. They'll tell you what it is.
So can we have 5 minutes left? What do you
Oh
think?
boy.
What do you think we need to know, feel, understand, do? What do you think we
All
need
right.
to understand? And as a tangible takeaway, how would you summarize all this to give us all a good understanding and implementation of the things we've learned here?
Okay. I'm going to give you 4 steps in the chat here.
Can you all handle 4 steps? And you can all save the chat, by the way. You can also click the 3 buttons down the bottom to save the chat. I can send you the chat if you can't save for whatever reason. Just reach out to me through email or on Facebook. I'll be able to send you the chat if you can't for whatever reason.
All right. This format a little weird. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened when I copied and pasted. But so step 1, just get a piece of paper, one guiding concept, message, or foundational principle. One thing, right? Go ahead, Denise. Oh, you're on mute, Denise.
Go ahead, please. This can wait.
Oh, okay. So just one thing, that's behind everything, right? Then list what's the key information, the bare minimum that you need to share, right? And this would be like, what are the potential takeaways that they will keep remembering, right? That would be like what you want to gear that key information around. Step 3, 1 or 2 enjoyable experiences the participants can expect to have, right? What are they going to leave having enjoyed? What are they now entering into it looking forward to, right? I'm doing a physical class. It's like you're going to leave sweaty and a little tired, but energized at the same time. So now they're coming in, and then when I deliver on that, it's like, oh, look at me. I'm sweaty and a little tired, but I feel great, right? That kind of thing. But if I tell them, oh, you're going to have this, muscle's going to activate and this is going to happen, blah, 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 I'm going to overload it, right? And then 1 to 3 key takeaways, right? So they're going to leave feeling like this, right? These is the experience. These are the key takeaways that you want them to notice. Because a lot of times, if you leave all of this to chance, they're going to have an experience and then they're going to interpret it their way. So they might miss the things that were most important for them to recognize. Does that make sense? So that's the 4 steps. And, and you can go, pretty far and wide with it. And then just to finish it up, there's also the feeling tone, which is more on the emotional side. I'll give you one more set of quick questions that you can copy and paste just so you have them. What's the emotional spectrum, right? Like how are they going to feel at the end? Are you managing that? Are you directing that? How do they leave feeling about themselves? How do they leave feeling about others? How do they leave feeling about you? Right. So, and these are things that you can't control other people, but you can control the way you deliver the work that you deliver. And if you begin with these thoughts in mind, you'll find that over time, your clarity drives their understanding. The clearer you get, the better they're going to get you and why you do what you do and how it's good for them.
Love it. Denise, do you want to ask a quick question before we wrap it up?
Real quick question, Ken. If a person goes to spiraluplife.com/launch, is your launch kit offer still available?
Yes. Denise does I'm getting a shameless plug from Denise. It's awesome.
Absolutely shameless. Ken over delivers on value constantly, and I cannot say enough good about him.
We
And
we get
it's
together every week
really
and we have these
easy,
conversations. So
really easy to join his community and get coaching if all you can do is read something very thoughtful and organized and systematic that he puts out in growing your business, or showing up live. Huge value showing up live with him.
that's what we all want. We want the
There you go,
people we
shameless
serve
plug.
to enthusiastically talk about us. Thank you, Denise.
Hey, round of applause for Ken, everyone, for being here. Ken, as Denise is saying, adds huge value. It's a pleasure for me to offer Ken the first round of expertise, for me to share with you all. Ken's going to be back. He's got decades worth of wisdom. So he's definitely going to be a returning guest. Hopefully this added value to you all. Once again, same day and time each week. Today you can create your promotional post in the serving circle. So please do that and ask me any questions, any queries, any comments about these calls and about the group. Please be engaged with me. Ken seems to have left the room. He's back now. Please add these to your calendar. I say if you have tangible takeaways, you show me that these are helpful by your attendance, by your attendance on these calls, by jumping on the recordings, by, just engaging with the posts. I'll be sending out an email every week regarding the key takeaways of these calls. So check your emails, check the posts. Ken, any last words, any ways people can best reach out to you and connect with you? How can we help you most? You'll need to unmute.
I got kicked off of Zoom for a second. Spiral. I'll put my email. So if you guys have questions or anything or curiosities, you can just shoot me an email. And that's the best way to correspond with me. Phone calls and stuff like that are a little tricky. I've got limited time. So, but yeah, and I just want to say just thank you to Tyson, because as he's been sharing his vision for how he wants to help people. It's unusual, like in the value and the way. Yeah, it's good seeing you too, Jan. And just his value, like, I've done a lot of courses with people, around marketing and business and all that kind of stuff. And Tyson's coming from such a genuine place that's also fused with genuine knowledge that I think is especially good for the people that are attracted to this group. So thanks, Tyson.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your kind words. I look forward to having you back, sharing your expertise. Thank you all once again. Same day and time next week. Jump in the serving circle. Message me if you need a copy of this chat. Other than that, recordings and stuff will be on the YouTube channel, on the podcast. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you next time. All right. Take care.
Bye.
See everyone.